the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
We're going to talk about swimwear and modesty, etc. We're in the heat of summer right now, these 90-degree days, right? A lot of time at the down at the pool or at the beach, whatever. And I raised 4 daughters, and so I get it. I understand. I've been down that road, my wife and I, to be sure. So, all right, so here's the email. All right. Hello, Doug. This may be a, quote, pick your battles kind of question. My 17-year-old daughter borrowed a friend's bikini, smaller than any swimsuit she owns. And I have previously told her to only wear her own swimsuits. I know she knows how I feel about clothing, and that shows about clothing that shows too much skin. It seems obvious to me that it sends the wrong message to boys in particular. I can't figure out how to explain it to her. Do I keep up the battle, or do I live by, quote, don't nag your children lest they lose heart? Letting it go seems like a parenting failure on my part. I already regret not talking about virtues much earlier with my kids. Then she says, this is kind of cute. Jim, you'll have to let me know about this. I wrote Timmery also asking for her advice. So we'll see if Timmery weighs in on that. So here's my thought, man. And I thank you for the email because it touches the heart of a battle that so many parents are facing, especially now in the middle of summer. And this is tough because everything in our culture says that modesty is old-fashioned, it's prudish, it's unnecessary. And there are so few good role models of attractively dressed, modest women. And, I did a bit of a Google search or AI search, give me a list of really, attractive contemporary women who dress modestly. And I didn't recognize most of the names on the list. And when I went and looked up some of them, I'm like, well, that ain't looking too modest to me either. So not many good role models, to be sure. If you know of any, please give me a call, let me know. Let's turn to our good friend, St. John Paul II. And he did not treat modesty merely as covering up. He saw it as a way of protecting the dignity of the person and protecting the meaning of the body and the truth that men and women are called to be a gift, not an object. He said, modesty protects the person from being reduced to the body. And you are so much more than your body. Okay. Modesty says, I am more than something just to be looked at, desired, or used. Okay. And then in his book, Love and Responsibility, which is a classic, okay, but a little bit deep. But Ed Shree wrote a commentary on Love and Responsibility, which is a little bit easier to digest. And I'm losing the name of it right now. It may come to me. But in Love and Responsibility, JP2, actually Carol Waite at the time, argued that a person must never be treated merely as an object for another person's pleasure. And immodesty says, here is my body. This is where my value lies, not in my personhood, but in my body. I hope you enjoy what you're seeing. Okay, and that's what immodesty says. Modesty says, no, I'm not just an object for you to oogle at, right? Modesty says I'm a sacred person, and as such, I should be treated with reverence. Okay? And here's how I like to think about it. The female body is a tabernacle. Now, who dwells in the tabernacles of our churches? Correct, Jesus Christ. And who is Jesus? The author of life. John's gospel starts off by saying nothing came into existence that did not come through the Son. Okay? And so Jesus is the origin of all human life. And so the origin of all human life is contained in the tabernacle. Well, a woman's body contains the origin of all human life yet to be conceived. Okay? And that makes it a tabernacle. And tabernacles need to be treated with great respect. Okay? John Paul II also taught that modesty protects the dignity of the person that exists because after the first sin, we are tempted to look at each other not with love, but with use. Modesty helps guard the body's deeper meaning that the human person is made for self-gift, communion, and love, not objectification. Okay? So the Ed Shree book is called Men, Women, and the Mystery of Love. Okay? And it's a phenomenal book, a great book. I recommend it. And Jim will put it in the show notes too. All right, so let me just share a couple of random thoughts that I have around this issue because I have 4 daughters and I've been down this road. I think the modesty talk and the modesty rules should come from dad, not from mom, because dad understands a little bit more that men are visual, and dad perhaps carries a little bit more authority in this arena than mom does. Okay. Now, sometimes dads aren't aligned with this, but I think that the modesty talk and rules should come from dad. If not from dad, dad needs to stand behind him and say, yeah, sweetheart, I agree with mom. Okay. Now, my rule or guideline when my girls were growing up was cover the skin and hide the curves. So that was my rule, and I didn't expect them to walk around in a potato sack, right, or, bulky sweatshirts. But the more of the skin you cover, the more of the curves you hide. I think the better that is. And the way I used to talk about it is, listen, you don't want, and I'll expound on this here in a second. You don't want the way you dress to detract anybody's ability to know what color your eyes are, but especially a boy, but anybody. And I used to have this conversation when I was in the business world with professional women. And I said, you don't want to detract anybody in the meeting from what you have to say and the way you're saying it. And if you're dressed inappropriately, and that could just be wild colors. That could be wearing an orange and pink, blazer and, I don't know, polka dot pants. If you're dressed weird, it doesn't have to be even immodesty, but if you're dressed weird, people aren't going to be listening to you. They're not going to be talking to you. So you don't want to distract anybody from where your real value lies, which is the beauty of your eyes, the windows to the soul, and your intelligence, okay? Another random thought. Mystery is always more attractive than revealing what shouldn't be revealed, okay? So to the degree to which, especially a woman, can clothe herself in a certain amount of mystery, that's an attractive thing. So I think you attract more if you're looking to attract, a future husband someday. You do a better job attracting them if there's mystery to you than if there's not much left to the imagination. Okay. And so this is a battle that a lot of parents have with their teenage daughters. Some of my daughters got it. Some pushed back. There were some tense times around this issue in the Hinderer family on a couple of occasions. And I'll share a personal story. But I had one daughter who kind of pushed back, and this is going back 25 years, a lot. And I got really frustrated one day, and I said, you know what? There's a certain number of clothes you get in your closet that you just can't wear anymore. So come Saturday, we're going to go through your closet, and I'm going to decide what's acceptable, what isn't. And she wasn't happy about that, but she went along with it. And so we went through, and we had 2 piles. The pile I'm like, nope, they're out. And the pile I'm like, yeah, okay, you can wear that. And I don't remember the numbers, but at one point she looked at the pile of the stuff that was in there, and she said, these are all the acceptable ones? And I said, yeah. And she said, she grabbed it really quick, threw it in her closet, said, good, because there was some in there I thought you'd reject. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, did I miss them? Or she just kind of, busted my chops? I think she was busting my chops. Anyway, that didn't leave a lot of clothes. And so I said, I'll take you shopping next Saturday. We'll go to the mall. We'll buy you some new clothes. The most painful 3 hours of my life was in the mall shopping for a 16-year-old's clothes. And I remember walking into the mall, walking past a mannequin at a women's clothing store, looking at that and saying, that's unacceptable, what that mannequin has on. And 3 hours later, leaving the mall, walking past the same mannequin, I looked at a mannequin and thought, hey, that's not all that bad, maybe. just in those 3 hours, I was warped by everything that I saw that was so unacceptable and how few things I saw that were acceptable. And this has got to be going back 25 years or so. So, that's just the nature of the time that we live in, right? So bottom line is, I think this is one area where I think you can't back down. And there's not, I think in modesty, there's not a lot of room for compromise. At least that's the way I see it. And if anybody sees it different, please feel free to give me a call and let me know. Unless you're one of my daughters, of course. But you're going to get a lot of pushback, and I just don't know that you can compromise in this. There's a lot of things you can compromise on. I don't compromise on curfew. You can compromise on a lot of stuff, but modesty is a pretty big deal, and the body's a pretty big deal. And it's a tabernacle, and it needs to be treated with great reverence. And we live in a society that doesn't. We live in a society that just throws it out there as a commodity, and it's wrong. Society's wrong about it, and our daughters are growing up in a society that's wrong about it, and we've got to help them all along, appreciating the fact that they're not going to be happy that we're helping them about it. But I think that's just the way that goes.
That was the Best of the Week on Relevant Radio. The best way to listen to the Best of the Week is on the Relevant Radio app. Free and always free. Download and share the #1 free Catholic app today in the App Store.